The brutal 2019 arrest and subsequent death of Ronald Greene was captured on body camera.
I'm scared. I'm just scared.
In video obtained, released, and edited by the Associated Press, Louisiana State troopers pull the 49-year-old black man from his car after a dangerous, high-speed pursuit.
Taser.
Greene is tased multiple times, but much of what happened is off camera.
I'm sorry.
During the graphic and disturbing video, Greene is repeatedly punched, put in a chokehold, and dragged through the dirt. Greene's family attorney sharing audio of what he says is one officer describing the violent arrest. That officer later died in a single car crash hours after learning he would be fired for his role in the incident. State police offering no comment on the audio.
I had to see my son take his last breath. I had to see what they did to him.
Greene's mother says after her son was shackled, he was left to die as officers washed their bloodied hands.
This guy ain't got AIDS.
I saw it the first time and I said, this is premeditated murder.
Greene's family says Louisiana State troopers tried to cover up the beating outside Monroe, first saying he died on impact from the car crash, but never mentioned the beating.
It invokes the image of what you might imagine slave catchers look when hunting down a runaway slave.
This morning, the LSP says their investigation remains under review, while a civil rights investigation is also underway.
Yeah, John, let's also not forget that this video was leaked. It was not officially released, and so we've never seen the full tape so far. And if you think about this, the family has been in limbo for the last 2 years.
I'm your brother. I'm scared.
Terrifying pleas from Ronald Greene after a high-speed chase led to a deadly confrontation with Louisiana State Police just outside the city of Monroe in May of 2019.
Get up here.
In body cam video obtained by the Associated Press, troopers can be seen repeatedly punching Greene after dragging him out of his vehicle.
Taser.
Troopers tase Greene multiple times while he's face down on the ground as they attempt to handcuff him. Another trooper can be seen kicking Greene.
All over. This guy ain't got AIDS.
The Associated Press released 3 segments of the original video, which it says is 46 minutes long. Only 2 of the video clips have audio. CNN has neither reviewed or obtained the original video, and it's unclear what occurred before or in between the video clips. The video is being seen by the public for the first time, but the incident took place 2 years ago. The body cam footage is shocking considering the way the encounter was described in the Louisiana State Police initial report in 2019, which says troopers attempted to pull Greene over for an unspecified traffic violation that ended when Greene crashed his vehicle. The report also says, quote, Greene was taken into custody after resisting arrest and a struggle with troopers. Greene died on the way to the hospital, the report said. At no time of the video can troopers be seen trying to render any medical aid to Greene, who, according to the Associated Press, was face down and moaning for more than 9 minutes. CNN has reached out to the attorneys for the officers for comment. Lee Merritt is an attorney for the Greene family and spoke to CNN.
It's not only what you're seeing, but the sounds that go with it. You can hear him screaming and writhing in pain as he says, I'm your brother, please stop. I'm sorry, I was just scared.
The Department of Justice is investigating the incident, and in a statement to CNN, the Louisiana State Police says the premature public release of investigative files and video evidence in this case is not authorized and was not obtained through official sources. LSP is confident in the judicial system and fair review of this incident and continues to offer our full cooperation. Unauthorized release of evidence undermines the investigative process and compromises the fair and impartial outcome for the Greene family, LSMP employees, and the community. We are unable to provide any further information at this time. Greene's mother tells NBC she thinks the Louisiana State Police murdered her son.
They beat him with the purpose of letting him just die.
Let me ask you this. I mean, there are 2 issues here. Number one, the treatment that Ronald Greene experience there. But number two, what the police said about what happened. The fact that they said there was a struggle, but they certainly didn't say tase. They didn't say there was blood flying everywhere, so much so that they commented on it. And then they merely said he died on the way in the car afterwards, as if it just sort of miraculously happened in a vacuum. The omission here of the details seemed glaring, yes?
You know, absolutely, John. This is deeply troubling, and certainly my prayers go out to the Greene family. But you pointed out the two big issues. One, we know just looking at the video, this was an example of what defines excessive use of force. And then on top of that, the inaccurate report, and on top of that, they indicate that the officer was at some point suspended. He returned to work. So what's the status of the internal investigation? Let's face it, this is yet another big setback for our profession. We're in a crisis right now, and this does nothing. And then the fact that there are statements being made about premature release of this information, I guess these folks haven't been paying attention on what's going on around the country. This is about maintaining public trust. And you're not going to maintain public trust when you withhold significant information. So this is bad.
Get on the ground! Get on the fucking ground! He's grabbing me! He's grabbing me! Let me see your hands! Put your hands behind your back, bitch! Give me your fucking hands! Taser, taser, taser! Put your hands behind your back!
The way it happened, he didn't stand a chance. Ronnie didn't stand a chance. And he wasn't going to live to tell it. They made sure of that.
Motherfucker, you better not move. All right, I'll look. This guy, you got fucking AIDS. I'm scared. Out of the car. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm your brother. I'm scared. I'm scared. Out of the car.
When a person is on the ground, prone, with their hands behind them, and in this case his feet were manacled, if he's not kicking, he's not fighting, no force can be used.
I'm scared. I'm just scared. Get out of the car. I'm scared. I'm scared. Get out of the car. I'm scared. Okay. Oh, Lord Jesus. Oh, Lord. Oh. All right, sir. Don't you turn over. All right. Don't you turn over. You lay on your belly. Lay on your belly. Yes, sir.
What he doesn't do is probably more revealing than what he does, and that is he never checks on the well-being of Mr. Greene.
I was going to sit him up, but I didn't want to spitting blood all over us.
There was this lethargic, laid-back demeanor. They captured their quarry. Now I'm going to wash my hands. Now I'm going to check the car out and search it. All of those things, sure, you want to do that. But you really want to secure Mr. Greene, get him in a patrol car, get him sitting up, and then inquire about EMS and their ETA to get there. That I didn't see at all.
I'm sorry. But I got to get to the car. It took 3 of them to take him down, so you need to consider that. I'm sure you won't handcuff him. Well, get another handcuff.
Hey, put a handcuff on him and cuff him to the stretcher before you pop one.
Might want to have a desk called Western Road. Take you with the wood. Just to let them know that it's coming. Yeah. One of us, somebody's going to have to ride with it. One of us might have to ride with it.
Stonewalling is literally the Achilles heel of law enforcement. And the only reason I could even conjecture that this information would not be provided to the medical examiner's office is because they didn't want him to see it.
And I beat the ever living fuck out of him, choked him and everything else trying to get him under control.
To mention that goes to show you the mindset that perhaps this is sort of an accepted type of behavior of the officer to freely share it with other officers.
And then all of a sudden he just went limp. Yeah, I thought he was dead.
There's a consummate leadership failure that for some reason or another, either based upon custom and practice or deliberately indifference, that they intentionally thwarted the facts of this case to be truly revealed.
Good job, Chris. Hey, really, y'all did a good job. Y'all called it out. Did a good job. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm scared. I'm just scared. Get over. I'm driving me, Chris. I'm scared.
Mr. Greene was, to some degree, even though he had just finished leading police officers on a lengthy and high-speed chase, his inclination at that particular point was to acquiesce to what the officers wanted.
Let me see your hands. Put your hands behind your back, bitch. Give me your fucking hands. Put your hands behind your back. Taser. Put your hands behind your back. Behind your back. You're about to get it again if you don't put your fucking hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. I'm sorry.
What's problematic for me is that Mr. Greene is now left on the ground, on his stomach, handcuffed in a prone position. And officers are trained throughout the United States that once there's a struggle of this nature, and the individual's handcuffed, that you need to push him off onto his side or get him in a sitting position so you can allow that breathing to be unimpeded by his own body weight.
This guy ain't got fucking AIDS.
And that didn't happen for at least, based on my calculation, 9 minutes, where Mr. Greene was left alone. And then when he wasn't left alone and he tried to get over onto his side, another trooper pushed him down using his foot against the lower back and buttocks of Mr. Greene. And I didn't understand that. There was absolutely no reason for that. Under no circumstances should Mr. Greene have been drugged by his ankle shackles. That was malicious, sadistic, completely unnecessary. And the officer that did it's going to have to be held accountable.
Greene died at the end of May in a 2019 car chase in northern Louisiana. Greene's family was initially told by officials that the 49-year-old died from injuries suffered in a car crash into a tree shrub at the end of a long chase that began over an unspecified traffic violation. The family is disputing the account from state police, which omits any reference to troopers using force. They've released photos too graphic to show of Greene's body, appearing to show deep bruises on his face and cuts on his scalp. Photos of the car that he was driving show it only had minor damage. ABC News has obtained the audio from the body camera microphone of State Trooper Chris Hollingsworth. Authorities say that video will not be released while there is an active investigation going on. We do have to warn you the audio is graphic and disturbing. The trooper that you just heard there, Chris Hollingsworth, he died in late September after a single car accident on the very same day he was informed that he was being fired for his role in this incident. These are images from his funeral. Hollingsworth was the only one of 6 troopers placed on administrative leave following an administrative investigation of the incident, not opened until this August. Now, you all recently met with the governor of Louisiana. You've both seen body camera video of the incident. We just heard that disturbing audio. Ms. Hardin, walk us through what you saw. And did you receive assurances that this video will be made public and soon?
What I did see, I can tell you, is totally what was told to us. That he was in an accident, he died in a car crash because of this accident. This video tells a whole different tape. His death certificate and this video is two different stories. It's horrific. I can't close my eyes and not see my son and what they did to him. I find it hard to sleep. It's been almost a year and a half. It was hard before. It's even harder now. It's unbelievable that this has gone this long, but I can see why it hasn't been revealed, because it's another story here. It's horrendous what happened to my son, and the fact that this has been kept under wraps, and the fact that they were going to keep it under wraps because they thought that we would not do anything with this. They just thought that this was going to be another death, another murder that they got away with, and that's how I see it.
I will say that relaying what happened in that video for this family will probably be very difficult. I can say that as the vehicles came to a stop, Ronald Greene immediately surrendered with his hands up, and he told law enforcement that he was sorry. He actually kept repeating that he was sorry and that he was scared. Without much time, the law enforcement officers approached the vehicle shouting obscenities. They immediately tased Ronald and drug him from the car. That was a matter of seconds by the time that they approached the vehicle. Once they had him on the ground, Officer Chris Hollingsworth put him in a chokehold while the other officers, at least one other officer, and I'm not sure which officer, tased him at that point a second time and a third time as he was, Christopher Hollingsworth continued to shout, "Put your arms behind your back." But he made it impossible because of the chokehold that he was placing him in while repeatedly tasing him. While that was going on, the men continued to shout obscenities and insults until for about 4 minutes, sustained minutes of beating and choking before they put him in handcuffs. Once they placed him in handcuffs, the beating continued.
Yes.
And the choking continued until they stopped for a brief moment to wash their hands of his blood. And then they returned to him to put shackles on his feet. They mocked him. They stomped on him. They drug him by his feet, the chains that they attached to his feet for no apparent reason, just for sport. And then they laughed about it.
You're saying that they literally washed their hands of his blood. I want to fast forward for a second, Lee, and just get a sense of, were you surprised when you heard the graphic audio recording from that officer? And what do you think needs to happen next?
Oh yeah, we were surprised when we heard the graphic audio, but after seeing the video and seeing that the behavior matched that audio, we know that there are additional officers who need to be arrested. They should have been arrested when this video was shared with the supervisors. And so there should be an investigation to why those supervisors or whoever were responsible, the stopgap for this kind of thing happening, why when they saw it, why weren't these men fired? The family is extremely disappointed that after seeing this video that they won't have the opportunity to see Christopher Hollingsworth prosecuted.
Yeah.
But we certainly want to see the other two officers prosecuted.
Yes, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Danelle, a question for you. When you first heard that your brother had passed away, at what point did you realize that there might be more to his death than authorities were telling you?
You know, I just feel like, based on the information that they gave us, it wasn't until we received a notification saying that on Facebook, the neighbor posted that he died, you know, right in my neighbor's driveway. And that's when we figured there was more to the story, that he was actually beaten and not in a car accident.
When we first heard that Ronnie died and died because of a car accident, we immediately went to Louisiana. We stayed there a total of 9 days, and we had no cooperation. It was also those 9 days where we did have no cooperation, no communication with none of the police, no state troopers, anything. And it was a back and forth. They just ran us in circles. We couldn't talk to no one, and no one called us.
Lee, have you received any explanation as far as why this investigation is taking so long?
Well, the DA who was initially responsible from Union Parish said that he immediately acknowledged that these were civil rights violations and should be referred over to the Department of Justice and to the FBI. He says since he referred it back in 2019, the case has just laid in wait.
Ms. Hardin, of course, this year has been extremely difficult for so many, the so-called racial reckoning in our country, spurring protests and some amount of reform. You've been calling for justice for your son for more than a year now. Of course, there have been similar calls for justice for Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Jacob Blake, and the list goes on. Many of those calls, as you know, have gone unanswered. Do you have any advice for other grieving families? What's getting you through this time, and what do you hope for now?
What I can say is how it's so bittersweet, but it's the networking and communicating with so many families. We understand each other's grief, our loss. We totally connect. I hate using that description, but when people usually say, "I'm so sorry for your loss," it doesn't resonate on any level. But when immediately you meet these families who've endured this kind of pain and horrific situations that goes on with their loved ones, it's an unspoken bond that happens. And for me, I found that it lightens the burden on me. I have someone I can talk to and relate to. And all I can say is the networking. And keep the network with positive energy, positive people. It's unbelievable. The fact that here we are almost a year and a half later, and the thoughts and everything on this it goes right back to day one. It's like I haven't awakened from this bad dream.
A nightmare, I'm sure.
An Orange County mom pleading for justice. Her son died after a run-in with police. Video surfacing just this week shows the violent arrest of Ronald Greene.
I'm scared. I'm just scared. Get out of
That's the voice of Ronald Greene.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Apologizing after leading Louisiana State troopers on a high-speed chase. After he's stopped, a trooper tases him and he's pulled from the car.
Taser. Put your hands back.
The 2019 video shows the black man beaten, kicked, and repeatedly tased by one of 7 white officers on the scene. The 49-year-old was also dragged face down briefly by his shackled ankles. The Associated Press says Greene was then left face down for 9 minutes. He later died.
The way he died, what they did to him, was so evil. I just can't believe that our family is going through this.
Hardin says state police first claimed her son died from injuries in the car crash that ended the chase, later changing the story, acknowledging there was a struggle and saying Greene died en route to the hospital. News 6 has obtained the autopsy report. It lists Greene's cause of death as cocaine-induced agitated delirium, complicated by motor vehicle collision, physical struggle, inflicted head injury, and restraint. The family has filed a wrongful death suit.
This was the de facto policy for this troop. If someone runs, you all get to administer a violent assault on them, and their constitutional rights are suspended. That's their de facto policy, according to the lieutenant who evaluated them in real time. And it's rare that you find a case like this where a supervisor shows up to the scene while the crime is still occurring and gives everyone an attaboy.
The Justice Department has opened a criminal investigation, and the FBI is also involved.
I don't know which one I'm more angry at. What they did to my son, or the fact that they want to continue hurting my family this way.
The long simmering case has now become the subject of a federal civil rights investigation, and Greene's family has filed a wrongful death lawsuit as well. The family attorney said it is shocking that this evidence has been withheld for over a year.
He says the video everyone's been seeing does not provide proper context of what happened to Ronald Greene that night, and LSP will be releasing more evidence. Greene died in May of 2019 after he was dragged, beaten, and tased in state police custody. Now, Colonel Davis says he's spoken with Greene's family and understands their grief. He also promises swift disciplinary action when the federal and state investigators wrap up, but say those troopers deserve due process.
We cannot comment on any of the conduct of the troopers related to this incident because the evidence of the conduct is under criminal investigation by other state and federal authorities.
Governor John Bel Edwards says he strongly supports the release of the video and supports State Police Superintendent Colonel Lamar Davis.
I understand that the Greene family is grieving, and any loss of life is tragic, regardless of how. I realize that there is a great concern with regards to the incident. We share that concern.
As EMS arrived to treat Greene, he is bloody and limp. State police would later initially claim Greene died in a car accident.
Good job, y'all called it out, good job.
2 years later, investigations continue and no officers have been charged.
Something that we're obviously all impacted by and all affected by. I'm affected by it. And, you know, I think it's time for us to really take a look at what happened, for everyone to have as much factual information as possible. Some evidence has been released to the media without the approval of LSP, and that evidence is not being provided to the public in its full capacity or context. As such, today, we're releasing all of the video evidence maintained by LSP related to the custody death of Mr. Ronald Greene.
Tonight, the state police released all of the body cam video from the night of Ronald Greene's arrest, and we're taking a closer look at what happened that night 2 years ago.
So in all, police released 2 hours and 11 minutes of body cam and dash cam video today.
It shows in detail the moments leading up to Greene's May 2019 death. And
I beat the ever-living out of him, choked him and everything else trying to get him under control. And then all of a sudden, he just went limp.
Body camera video newly released by Louisiana State Police shows troopers immediately knew their brutal arrest of 49-year-old Ronald Greene may have taken his life. May 10th, 2019, State Police began chasing Greene through Monroe.
We gotta do something. He's gonna kill somebody.
The brutal arrest that followed, Greene would not survive.
I'm your brother. I'm scared. Get out of the car.
Greene is tased, then punched repeatedly in the ribs.
You better not move.
He's then left groaning on the ground for more than 9 minutes. At one point, a trooper drags Greene face down on the ground by his ankles. This new video was released by state police to provide context to a clip of the incident leaked earlier this week. Video that was not willingly released for 2 years because of a federal investigation.
Sir, don't you turn over. All right. Don't you turn over. You lay on your belly. Lay on your belly. Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Yes, sir. You understand? Yes, sir.
Amen. Well, from that clip that you just played, we know that Ronald Greene did try to roll over or prop himself up. The AP says possibly in an attempt to breathe, but that law enforcement officials told him to remain on his stomach. The Associated Press did also obtain an official copy of that autopsy report, which shows, according to them, that there were high levels of cocaine and alcohol in Greene's system, and also that he had a broken breastbone and a torn aorta. Unclear, though, if those injuries were a result of the high-speed chase and subsequent crash or a result of the struggle that took place between him and state troopers. And I want to read the exact cause of death that the AP is quoting from that autopsy report. It says, quote, cocaine-induced agitated delirium complicated by motor vehicle collision, physical struggle, inflicted head injury, and restraint. Now, notably, the AP reports that the autopsy did not specify a manner of death, so whether that was considered a homicide, accidental, or undetermined.